check this out. Why am I so out of breath? What you doing? Come here, Taco. Taco. I had a great visit with Taco, and then my mom and I jumped into the car and went to get our library books that we had put on hold. So let's take a look at what I am deciding to borrow from my mom's library books. I'll leave these here for a second as I talk and just let you know that my mom anticipates bad weather at some point and doesn't want to have to go out to the library or other places, so she scrolled through at my suggestion the word Christmas in any book available in large print with the word Christmas. And as she scrolled our library app, she just put on hold a book that looked really good based on its cover, and she literally judged a book by its cover, but it's okay because she just decided that she can always DNF any book that if she gets into it and it isn't her thing, that's totally fine. So yeah, she might have been checking out about 17 to 20 books. We returned to her house, got all those books inside. I looked through them and chose a stack, and I didn't want to actually physically borrow them from her as she had borrowed them from the library, so they're at her home. But I took a picture of this stack of books that I would love to get to. All of them have the word Christmas in the title because that's what she had searched. All right, moving on. Whew, it's like my Christmas TBR is just never ending, but it's okay. There's always continuing after Christmas, even into January potentially, and maybe a Christmas in July situation coming up because, hey, now I know that there are even more books out there than I thought. Let's grab a drink of water. Okay. That should help a little bit. So what I checked out from the library, and these are things I put on hold. Literally, when we walked in the library, we said to one another, we are not allowed to look around. We both had more than enough books checked out already, plus picking up books. So I got 7 books. Let's see. Now, I was purposely emphasizing some middle grade books to have sort of some easy palate cleanser fast reads. So Guinea Pigs Online. This book says that it's Christmas in Strawberry Park and the guinea pigs are decorating the hutch and rocking around their broccoli Christmas tree. But when Henrietta's mother is called to investigate the mystery of missing Inca gold, the furry friends find themselves on their way to Peru. Eduardo is thrilled to be heading back home to see his family, but when he discovers that their precious Christmas cocoa bean has been stolen, he realizes he has a mission too. As Peruvian guinea pig legend has it, if the traditional cocoa bean is not on the table for Christmas dinner, a gigantic condor will swoop down and eat the guinea pigs. Can the pals find the cocoa bean in time to save Christmas and keep the condor at bay? I'm looking forward to this fun little read. Okay, next. Now this book I will save until one of the last ones to read out of the 7 I got today, because the top here tells us that this book is the sequel to the best-selling novel The Christmas Wish. So back to my mom's house as we were looking through our library books, almost like opening Christmas gifts, because when you put them on hold, sometimes you forget what all you put on hold, so it's fun. I hopped back onto our library's website and did put The Christmas Wish on hold, so I will hopefully get that in a few days and I'll read it, and then I'll read this, The Christmas Quest. But the back cover of this book says, The Christmas quest celebrates the power of love and will reaffirm your faith in the basic goodness of the human race. Maybe peace on earth, goodwill toward men really is possible. Boy, oh boy, if there's ever a season that would be true, seeing the power of love and reaffirming your faith in the basic goodness of the human race, I'm going to be looking forward to getting the first one in this series, and then I can read this one. Next is The Christmas Guest, a novella. This one was kind of funny because this book is the reason I found The Christmas Quest. Because I was typing guest, and I suppose the algorithm builds in for misspellings, and it, just in case I meant to say Q instead of G for the first letter of this word, it showed me this book as well as this one, and I ended up putting both on hold. So The Christmas Guest, it's a very small book, 93 pages, and it's described here as a spectacular, spine-chilling story of an American student spending the holidays in a British manor house, where she discovers dangerous secrets and a grim history hidden behind a seemingly charming Christmas celebration. I think that sounds really cool. It includes local police. Ooh. More than 30 years later, the events of that horrific week are revisited along with a diary from that time. What began in a small English village in 1989 reaches its ghostly conclusion in modern-day New York many Christmas seasons later. So, if I need to push this off until January, right there at the beginning, it may be able to be included as part of Epistolary January, hosted by the YouTube channel In Search of Wonder, because it mentioned a diary. That sounds so good. 1989. So sometimes I have to do a double take because like 1989 is during my lifetime, but when I see books like this, my brain wants to think 1889 because I feel like it should be old-fashioned. So anyway, 1989. Okay, A Gift from Bob. And there is an obvious reason I got this. This is our first Christmas without one of our cats who we had for, well, about 11 or 12 years. And our cat's name was Pumpkin and looked very much like this. This would be Bob, apparently. And to be honest, I think this cover just drew me in because it reminded me of Pumpkin, who passed away not too long ago. Pumpkin also lived with my mom and ruled the roost among the other animals. From day one of moving in with my mom after being the only animal in our house. She let the other cats, and later on Taco, know that she was boss and there would be no discussion about that, and that's just how it was, that Pumpkin was the top dog even though she's a cat. So anyway, this definitely drew me in. Oh, just a bit about this one. From the day James Bowen rescued a street cat abandoned in the hallway of his shelter accommodation, they began a friendship which had transformed both their lives. Street Cat Named Bob and The World According to Bob are other books that have this cat in it. James, in this book, looks back at the last Christmas they spent scraping a living on the streets and how Bob helped him through one of his toughest times, providing strength, friendship, and inspiration, but also teaching him important lessons about the true meaning of Christmas along the way. So I look forward to reading that and just remembering our sweet pet. Okay, this is another one that features a diary. The front cover of The Christmas Secret says, "Will an 1880 Christmas Eve wedding be canceled by revelations in an old diary?" The back cover gives us a few more details. Anticipating a Christmas Eve wedding with Elizabeth, David Stinner is confused by her letter and desperate to find her. Can David root out the truth about the past and bring back his bride, or is the truth destined to bring an ultimate end to their romance? Elizabeth Canning had discovered an awful secret in her estranged aunt's diary. Believing her chances for a happy marriage are spoiled, she leaves her fiancé a letter and flees town. In hopes that distance will heal her broken heart, she takes refuge in her grandparents' Pennsylvania home. So, that looks interesting. I haven't been on a huge push lately to read books about the Amish community. I have at different points in the past, but this one may include some of that, but it does sound really intriguing, and I do enjoy just a little dip of my toe into that storyline now and then. In these next books, I was definitely influenced by Deea and her YouTube channel featuring picture books for Christmas, and I found this book, Strum and Drum, and I am just really looking forward to seeing this book. I'm sure I could read it within moments. So that's a hint of the first few pages, and every page is sort of like that. Picture page on one side and a words on the other, and then I'll jump toward the end because this reminds me of one of our other cats. Actually the last cat still living with my mom is just called Kitty Kitty, which isn't very creative, but the other indoor cat, I don't know if I've shown Kitty Kitty at all, but she looks exactly like this. So, and the last book I picked up, How Winston Delivered Christmas. And this really makes me think that maybe I saw this book suggested, but it calls itself an Advent story in 24 and a half chapters. So sort of like a chapter a day, but I didn't begin on the first of Christmas. But it does even have these cutouts that count the days. Okay, this is like to-do things. So it has a page where it tells you how to write a letter to Santa Claus. It has a story. And then it has make a finger puppet. So every day has a bit of a story and then an activity to do. This is wonderful. This would be a great gift to someone who has children, but gift it early so they can do the activities. Paper chains. I had actually considered making a paper chain for our tree this year with my kids, and we haven't all really sat down together since my oldest daughter got home from college. Speaking of that, now's the time that I will show you our text for this Tuesday tag, text, and taco. Do I have them in the right order yet? I'll get there eventually. Okay, so to round out the Tuesday evening, it went until a bit late, and of course around here it gets dark, by 6 or so. But it was around 8 p.m. when I finally got to head home for the evening, and I was riding with my oldest daughter who had used my car since she's just visiting for the season. And I remembered that I had not made it to the little free libraries I was going to go to a couple of days ago and put in my donations. So we headed toward our house where we would be passing one of my favorite little free libraries. But its location is at this really weird spot on a road it's a side road, but parking on one side to where only one car driving can pass through on the other side. every time I stop at this little free library, another car comes down this road and it's kind of awkward and I have to hurry. So she let me out and I took her phone to use as a flashlight. It was after dark, of course. And I probably should have just not done the whole thing, but of course a car came. So my daughter, who hasn't been driving and hasn't been familiar with that neighborhood, had to drive away and circle a block or so and come back. And I was so scared for a few minutes that I was just gonna be left there, but at least I was left with a phone. But she made it back. After a couple of minutes, I had finished at the little free library and already began sort of slowly strolling down the road, hoping that she would make it back and pick me up, but turned out fine. I hopped in. We head home the rest of the way and realize that there was a train at a complete stop, not just going slowly, but blocking the road on its train tracks, completely stopped. Well, since we had no idea why that was happening or how long it would take, that's not a normal occurrence, I told her that I know a way to go backtrack, go a little farther to the east or west. We chose to go west, just a block or two, and there was a spot where that same train track is on an overpass, so we could drive under it. So we headed there, and on the way there I remembered there was another little free library because all of the books I wanted to donate would not fit in the first one. It was a little too full. So since the first one was my favorite, I did put the Christmas themed ones in there, but the second one I had several just random books I still wanted to get put away. So at the first library, by the way, I didn't get any books. It's usually my favorite one, but this time I found this really sweet little bookmark that is laminated. You can see it's shiny, and I really like that. And it actually kind of matches the book I'm reading right now. Yes, I'm still working to finish this book, but I'm almost there. I got just the bookmark from that first little free library. The second one, however, let me show you what I got there. Now, remember, I grab these books without knowing everything about them. So sometimes I redonate without reading, just whatever the case. Just remember that about me. I know there are people who stand at little free libraries and deeply research. I don't do that. It's a little free library and I live close enough I can just take it right back to that same one if I want to, or put it in a different one. Okay, here's what I got. Laura Hillenbrand's Unbroken, and it says there she's the author of Seabiscuit, which is of course well known. Let's find out what this one's about. On a May afternoon in 1943, an Army Air Forces bomber crashed into the Pacific Ocean and disappeared, leaving only a spray of debris and a slick of oil, gasoline, and blood. Then, on the ocean surface, a face appeared. It was that of a young lieutenant, the plane's bombardier, who was struggling to a life raft and pulling himself aboard. So began one of the most extraordinary odysseys of the Second World War. Ooh. The lieutenant's name was Louis Zamperini. In boyhood, he'd been a cunning and incorrigible delinquent, breaking into houses, brawling, and fleeing his home. As a teenager, he had channeled his defiance into running, discovering a prodigious talent that had carried him to the Berlin Olympics. I knew that name sounded familiar, Zamperini. Ahead of Zamperini lay thousands of miles of open ocean, leaping sharks, a foundering raft, thirst and starvation, enemy aircraft, and beyond, a trial even greater. Driven to the limits of endurance, Zamperini would answer desperation with ingenuity, suffering with hope, resolve and humor, brutality with rebellion. His fate, whether triumph or tragedy, would be suspended on the fraying wire of his will. Ooh, okay, I'm really excited about this. So, it sounds like historical fiction. Oh, just realizing one of the books I was supposed to have donated ended up not in the bag, and that's because I did it after dark and I couldn't see well. Okay, well, I'll be going to another little free library again soon. Next book. Okay, of course I've heard of this one. It will definitely be one, if I read it, I will redonate it. Ooh. It's in not great condition. I don't know if you can tell. There's some water damage and whatnot. Let's flip this. But it's not like disgusting. It just looks like maybe it got in the rain or, you know, something like that. So anyway, yeah, it's not like there's something gross on it to touch or whatever. People We Meet on Vacation, Emily Henry. If I've heard of this book, so many of you have probably already heard about it a million times. The question is it the sort of thing I am going to want to prioritize reading? So just a little bit about me and my reading goals for 2024 as well as 2025, but mostly 2025 because I keep ending up with way too many library books that I'm focusing on. And they're wonderful, but my goal is to read books I own and want to pass along and get rid of. This would now be one of them, because I'm not keeping anything that's in a damaged condition like this unless for some reason it's special to me or old, and this is not. Okay, so anyway, this is gonna go on to that, yeah, that list of things that I would like to read soon, mostly because I know I'm going to then get rid of it and free up physical space in my home. Next. James Patterson, The Inn. And it looks like he paired up with Candace Fox to write it. Is that right? Is that what that means with her name at the bottom? So it sounds like James Patterson is pairing up with a lot of people, because there's this picture on the inside of a different book, and at the bottom it shows he paired with Andrew Borelli. So anyway, that's probably how authors with big names get to put so many books out, is by pairing up with other authors and ghostwriters and whatnot. So there's that. The Inn. This last one I've also heard of, and of course I'm pretty sure it's some kind of show or movie. The Fault in Our Stars. Okay, yes, this is the what is it, a series I had heard of. Despite the tumor shrinking medical miracle that has brought her a few years, Hazel has never been anything but terminal, her final chapter inscribed upon diagnosis. But when a gorgeous plot twist named Augustus Waters suddenly appears at Cancer Kid Support Group, Hazel's story is about to be completely rewritten. So, okay. Sometimes I feel negative. Oh, it says now in a major motion picture. When things have been made into movies and things, I almost assume there's something about them I'm not going to be like preferring in the book. But I shouldn't go into a book assuming negativity. I need to assume the best, and if it comes along, I skip over it or I choose to DNF, right? Okay, this one's probably gonna be good. And I feel so bad when I make commentary that is general commentary and I'm holding up a specific book and it may not even apply just to this book. So anyways, that was my what do we say here? Tag, text, and Taco Tuesday. But let's get to the tag. Okay, and today's tag is the Bookish Q A tag. I saw this tag on the YouTube channel Liz's Reading Corner, but she's not the original creator. I will put that in the description. So this is just 7 questions about like my bookish preferences. So here we go. Number 1, how many books is too many in a series? As an adult, I've not read long series. I have begun a couple of series, and there are about 5 that I'm going to work through in 2025, but I will say that I feel I would be totally hypocritical if I say there's anything wrong with long series, because as a kid, that was what I was totally drawn to as an older child. So The Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High were 2 of the first series that I could have gone back to constantly, and I loved, especially with the Babysitter's Club. I remember thinking it was so cool how a group of girls that the books would purposely point out ways they were different, and it was a reminder that you don't need to be identical to all of your friends. There is beauty in the things that are different among you. You know, you had, you know, the sporty girl and the smart girl, and the one who loved to dress and have her hair perfect, and just all of those things. It's not like if you're athletic, you can only be friends with the athletic people, things like that. Next up, number 2, hardcover versus paperbacks. And I will say that I prefer not only hardcover occasionally, but if I ever have my choice, okay, I'm not a book sniffer. I know people out there, some are book sniffers. I am a book toucher. I love these new book covers that have the that soft leathery kind of texture almost. I'm not sitting near any, but it gets me every time. There are times, now usually those book covers, and I would be looking at books that are already in the part of the store that I enjoy or whatever, but those ones that are just almost like a soft, oh man, I've been known in bookstores to be like, come feel the book, you know, not look at the book, not read the book, not even check out the summary, feel the book. So paperbacks with that lovely texture to the cover. Oh yeah. My most recent DNF. And at first I couldn't think of anything. And then I reminded myself that I do have a pause. I'm keeping a list of paused books. Some people call it a soft DNF. I'm not calling it that because I'm differentiating between those. So my paused books include Miracles by C.S. Lewis. And that's just because I love a good deep theological read. I just wasn't in the mood for that going into this holiday season. I wanted some light stuff, which I haven't even gotten to as much as I want. But I did DNF a book. Okay, I say DNF. Yeah, I definitely DNF'd. I skipped a whole middle chunk of a book and jumped to the end because I wanted to know the ending, but I just wasn't enjoying it. And that book was The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. If you love it, great. I did love the characters, but the storyline was just not working for me. So I already know I jumped to the end and found out all the stuff. But I don't usually do that with books, so that was unusual for me, and I had to have really not been enjoying it for that to have happened. Question number 4. Okay, what's a book I could always reread? None. I reread parts of the Bible over and over and reference them and different things, but as far as just books, I'm not a rereader in general. I'm not a rewatcher when it comes to television. I am just not like a repeat person like that because there's so much more out there to learn. I would rather read a similar book about the same time period or topic and have a second take on it than to reread the same book. Having said that, I admire people who have rereads. For you to love a book enough to like reread it all the time, that's amazing. Like really, really cool. Number 5, one point of view versus multi-point of view. Okay, well, my short answer is both. And my long answer is that I do not want to read too many of either right in a row. And I am a tandem reader, so I will have multiple books going at once, but I don't want those books to both be multi-POV or single POV, especially not 2 different books that are both like historical fiction and both multi-POV or something like that, you know? They have to be distinctly different. Now, I will say, for example, in the books I'm reading right now, and I'm not flying through these as quickly as I thought I would. I succeeded in a lot of ways. Single POV, multi-POV, you know, all those things. This one jumps around in the timeline. This one's just sort of straightforward. But I ended up with two main characters with the same first name. And that gets kind of confusing. Now, thankfully, because this one's multi-POV, it's not that same person talking or being talked about constantly. But it is occasionally a little bit confusing when I go to pick up the one and my brain has to be like, oh wait, it's that Nora, not the other Nora. It's, you know. So that was an unexpected, you know, not my first choice situation, but it is what it is. Okay, next question, 6. My least favorite book. I am not choosing a least favorite book. Even books that I have had to DNF, there are topics I don't read. I am not drawn to topics involving satanic activity. There are just entire areas of reading that aren't my thing. I will say though, the reason I refuse to name one least favorite book is that I saw recently how a book that I started to read and read just maybe 5 pages of and was like, this is not happening. And I was really kind of sad because it's a Newbery winner, which is the award that I'm attempting to read all of those. And I was like, ugh. So I didn't return it to the library. I kept it until it was, you know, closer to being due, and I just had it sitting there. And then, if you're familiar with the YouTube channel, Chrissy's Purple Library, if not, check her out. She's just a sweetheart. I was watching a live, and I was like, oh, I cannot figure out which of 3 certain books, and they're all 3 different genres. So in her comments, I just quickly put out there for, hey, Chrissy, tell me which of these books to read. And one of them included this middle grade fantasy book. And I was thinking, don't pick that one, don't pick that one. But to be fair to my books, I was, you know, including it, but hoping she would pick either of the other 2. I didn't care which one, just not that one. Of course she picks that one. Well, I was so glad in the end because I told myself if she picks it, I have to read it. By the way, she did not pick it by title, she picked it by genre. So I reread the book, The Girl Who Drank the Moon, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. It was actually weirdly perfect timing for the subject matter. I just can't get over how much I loved it. So the me who attempted to read it, you know, at point A, and the me just a week and a half later or so who attempted to read the same book wasn't in the same mental space or something, because I could not get into it. Round 1, round 2, I adored the book. I saw it apply to life. I learned lessons about motherhood and living in a political society, just things I drew out of that book that were so timely for 2024 that, you know, that author wrote that she wrote in a general story and didn't know what would be happening in this day and time. And that is what makes for such a good book, when you can write a book and have that story be relevant to a variety of different ages as well as to a variety of points in time. So anyway, that was my reason that I will not be able to pick one least favorite book, because it often depends on the reader and what mood or time of life that reader's in. Number 7. Oh, can you read while hearing or listening to music? I would never have thought this was true, but I do now come to prefer having some kind of noise besides just the silence when I'm reading. So some light music is okay, but I will actually sometimes have a playlist of YouTube videos playing, and I'm just listening to them a little bit. As I said, they're a playlist, so I can easily go back to them while I'm reading, and I'm often using the YouTube videos as background noise. And then if they say something that I really want to hear, I can tune in. I never thought I would be that person. Even a few months ago, I would see like a YouTuber say, okay, I'm gonna read, and when they would say it, they started putting on headphones, and I was like, what are you doing? Well, are you listening to an audiobook? And that's fine if you are. But they were holding a physical book in their hand. And then they would say, oh, here's my playlist. This is what the music was I was listening to with this book. And I was like, how? Because it wasn't even instrumental music. It was music with words. And anyway, it's so funny how we can morph through even just a few short months of any journey, and reading life is one of those. So I'm here to just share this with you. I'm having a blast. I love these every Tuesday, getting to share my taco visits. And so let's just keep on reading, and I am just determined to finish these 2 stinking books that I am enjoying both of, but man, they're taking me forever to get through. So I'm just gonna keep at it. All right, bye.